Hi, this is Sarah Lacy. I'm here with Tony Conrad, and I wanted to talk about, you were in this week to do Ask a VC, but while you were here, I've been wanting to sit and talk to you about this idea of someone who's a venture capitalist and an entrepreneur at the same time. We have lots of debates about, whether it's important to take money from someone who started a company before, whether, there's just some value to like pattern recognition and people who've come from other disciplines that make great VCs, and it's like that's kind of the age-old argument in the Valley. But you and a lot of your partners in this sort of budding wave of venture capitalists are doing both at once. How does that work?
How does it work? It works fabulously. I mean, I always say they're very symbiotic. They like.
How so? I'm very skeptical of this. I mean, you seem to pull it off, but.
Well, I mean, you look at the track record, right?
Right.
So, I think that in my case it works, right? And I think it's the only way it really works for me at this stage. Not to say it won't evolve later, but right now, this is the way I like to work. I think, I definitely became a better investor once I became a founder in a company. And I think by virtue of being a founder, or by virtue of being an investor, I'm also a better founder, right? Because I have a lot of access in different ways, not just the capital, but access in the network, access to discussions. When you're an investor in 10, 12 companies, and you have a number of good companies and they're talking about the latest kind of practices around conversion funnel marketing and stuff like this, you learn a lot, right? I mean, just sitting there, I just learn a lot, and then you go and you apply what you can to your company. So I think they are incredibly symbiotic. When I talk to an entrepreneur, there is, often a moment, and it's a genuine moment where I feel like, whoa, I'm just gonna put my founder hat on for, I really, like it's almost like this figurative thing, and I think I can talk to founders in probably a different way because I'm talking to them from my perspective as a founder. Like concepts like be careful, you might get what you ask for. Do you understand what it means to get like a valuation that's way ahead of itself? Not saying you shouldn't get good valuations, right? You don't want to undervalue your company, but the right answer is to get the right valuation, right? And structure it in a way that makes sense. So those kind of concepts, I think, come much more naturally to you,
right?
When you are actually a founder in a business, or recently were a founder in a business.
But when you're currently a founder in a business, aren't there inherent conflicts there at some point? Like, say AOL is talking to you about buying About Me, and they're also talking, to one of your portfolio companies about buying them. I mean, don't these things come up? Are you ever fighting over employees, fighting over resources, backing something, and then maybe you morph into that competitive space? It seems like there's a lot of ways that, when you're clearly on one side of the table from the company and then you've got all this other stuff going on concurrently, that can be a dangerous situation for an entrepreneur.
I'm not sure. That hasn't been our experience. At True, we have 4 people that are full-time venture capitalists. So that's what they wake up and that's what they do all day long. Everybody on our team has been, founded a company or been a part of a startup. And then there's 3 of us, Tony, Ohm, and myself, who are all concurrently doing investments, but at the same time, also running our companies. And I've yet to see a conflict, happen. So I guess in theory it could happen, but it hasn't happened in practice for us. I mean, genuinely so. And I think we would have heard about it, in the background. I think somebody's going to be smart enough not to bring a company that is dead on competitive with About.me to the True partnership. And if they're not, then honestly, is that the kind of person that you want to back?
But by that logic, does it preclude you guys being able to invest in certain deals? I mean, About.me is a unique case, but what if you were doing Playdom and you don't get to invest in Zynga?
No, let's do a real example of that. I think there was early opportunities to look at Posterous as well as Tumblr, but we're investors in WordPress. Not only are we investors in WordPress, I'm on the board. Tony Schneider is the CEO, and Phil Black, at his old firm before, we started True Ventures, is a big time investor, in the company, as is True. So, wow, a lot of different things. I think we had common sense, we just didn't take the meeting, right? We were very polite. And I think the entrepreneurs actually were interested in meeting with us because of the work that we were doing with WordPress and thought we would get it, but we didn't feel that was appropriate. So I think that, you know, there's obvious moments where you pull back.
And what about time? I mean, most people say starting a company is beyond a full-time job. How do you do that and have time to do anything else? And if an entrepreneur takes an investment from someone who's also starting a company, does that mean they're getting less time from that person?
No, I don't think they're getting less time at all. You'd have to ask the people I'm working with, but I'm superhuman.
Is that
I don't
answer
know.
to all these questions?
You know, I think we all have more kind of slack in our day than, you know, than we all want to admit, right? I think we really do. You know, I just don't. I think I have a lot less slack, you know, when I'm doing both. I really do. I feel like I'm dialed in all the time, 24/7. I'm working all the time. You know, I'm finding time, you know, time on the weekend when my kids are still asleep, or, you know, my wife is off doing yoga. You know, I seize those moments, like, okay, you know, like, let's, you know, clean up your email, like, get back to people, you know. I mean, there's a lot to do, and, like, you know, so I don't know, just work hard.
Do you think this is going to become a bigger trend in Silicon
I do.
Valley?
I think it's already become a bigger trend. Like Reid Hoffman for a while straddled.
Right.
You have, you know.
And he still spends most of his time at LinkedIn.
There you go. You have us, and you have lots of angel investors.
Right.
That are straddling.
But just because you guys are saying it works for you, there's got to be red flags. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you're considering taking money from someone who's doing both at the same time, what should be the questions that they ask?
I think they shouldn't ask you the question. I think they should ask your portfolio companies.
What should they ask them? Just
I think you should.
Time, conflict,
What's it like?
Things we brought up, other things?
What's it like working with Tony? Do you know, get access? Does he get back to you on a timely basis? When you call, does he answer? You know, if he doesn't answer, does he call you back? You know, what's that like? And you know, I'm sure that we're not perfect. I definitely know, you know, there are times I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, called yesterday and I haven't called back. But, you know, for the most part, I think we're pretty attentive. You know, it's almost kind of like the same rule I have when Mary, you know, my wife, Mary, Mary calls. It's like I have an exception, right? And I just say, you know, this is what I do. And I can say to Mary, hey, Mary, you know, you need to understand, like, we had this talk. Mary, I can't talk right now. I'm sitting down with Sarah. And she's like, cool. And I said, you can't be offended by that. And I think the entrepreneurs get that too. You know, like, they're a priority. So, you know, I feel really comfortable with it. I think they should just ask.
You don't think it's a worrying trend for the Valley? You don't think a lot of people are going to, you know, be awful at balancing the two? Balance is not something the Valley has typically been good at.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of investors who aren't particularly good. Right? Not to be harsh.
Right.
But it's true. The data bears out. So, you know, I think, like, if you could figure out how to make it work to be an advantage for yourself, then I think you should do it that way. And that's what I've, you know, like, after I sold Sphere, and I was thinking, what do I want to do next? Do I want to start another company, or do I want to go full time and, you know, at True and be an investor? And I finally sat down with John and Phil, and I said, you know, I'm really struggling with this because, you know, my common sense is telling me, like, dude, like, you know, slow your life down a little bit. You know, like, just focus on investing, and this is a great time period to invest. But I just felt like that wasn't the right answer for me. It kept gnawing on me. I wanted to start another company, but I didn't want to give up investing either. So I figured out a way to do both.
And are you going to start something else after About Me? You're
Absolutely
stuck for like,
not.
what, 4 years?
No, I'm not stuck at all. You know, you're never stuck.
You love AOL.
I do
No,
love
I'm just
it.
kidding. Tim Armstrong
Well,
loves AOL.
do I love? You know what? Same question I have. Like, you asked me, like, great company or a great entrepreneur. I'll back a great entrepreneur every time. I don't care so much about the idea at the early stage. I care, but not as much. You know, AOL or Tim Armstrong, Brad Garlinghouse, John Broad, Jared Groost, and the team there, and Artie, and all those guys. That's what I'm plugging into, right? That's what I'm buying into.
Right. So another one after
this. That's why I'm
this.
going to be there. So am I going to do another company after this? We'll see. We'll see. I'm just going to focus on this company right now. Another one. Don't do that. That's so evil.
We're in Tech Town. We can talk about these things.
Yeah, we're in Tech Town.
How do you like your stay in Tech Town?
But I am focused right now on About.me. I think you know I am. Pretty focused on it.
I've found, and I just want to give this piece of advice to anyone who you don't return emails. I've found the way to get you to answer an email is to put "dude" in all caps in the subject line.
Oh, when have I not responded to your email? That would be the week I got a lot of emails from the founders I'm working with.
And you were getting back to all of them.
That's right. And my phone was ringing from Mary.
So that week I was the low priority.
I can't believe that you would suggest dudette.
That's the way. Dude. That's the panic button.
All right. Listen, internet world, if I start getting a lot of dude emails, that's not going to work for you. That's not going to work.
Anything else you want to say while we're in Tech Town?
Oh, no.
Before you get back to, what is your part of AOL called?
The Consumer Applications Group, CAG.
Town?
CAG.
You don't have a town?
We might have a town. I'll ask tomorrow.
Well, we appreciate you coming to Tech Town.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Sarah.